Jack Della Maddalena didn't rise through MMA like the usual prodigy. He didn't come in with Olympic credentials, a decorated amateur record, or a hype train ready to explode. He came in with 2 losses and a decision to never let the world see him break. Jack wasn't born into greatness. He had to bleed his way into it. Scrappy MMA in Western Australia was never supposed to be the birthplace of one of the best boxers in the sport. It's small, it's gritty, it's honest. It's the kind of place that doesn't create champions, it reveals them. Jack walked through those doors as a teenager, quiet and unassuming. And 30 seconds into his first session with Coach Ben Vickers, the room noticed something different. He wasn't fast, he wasn't strong, but he made adjustments faster than anyone there. Every correction stuck. Every mistake became a lesson. Not flashy, just frighteningly efficient. No amateur padding, no warm-up fights, straight into the pros. And the sport punched back. Twice. 2 early losses. Most fighters crumble under 1. 2 is usually a graveyard. But here's the controversial truth most fans still won't accept. Those losses didn't expose Jack's weaknesses. They exposed everyone else's excuses. Instead of quitting, Jack and Ben made a pact. Let's get 10 straight wins. No shortcuts, no breaks. And then Jack did something very few fighters ever manage. He actually kept the promise. Contender Series survived a firefight and came out sharper. Randy Brown floored him with timing so clean it looked pre-programmed. Kevin Holland solved like a puzzle. Gilbert Burns, Jack stepped into the deep end and swam. And let's be honest, Jack's boxing doesn't look elite for MMA. It looks elite, period. And here's a little seed for later. Before Jack ever thought about Islam, Islam's shadow was already hanging over the division. Now here's where the story starts to shift. Look at Jack's fight with Belal Muhammad. Because if Jack can survive a 5-round war with one of Islam's main training partners, well, let's just say the math gets interesting later. Keep that in the back of your mind. Trust me, it'll matter later. Jack's rise isn't about talent. It's about something far more dangerous. He never flinches. He never hesitates. He never breaks rhythm. And that's the kind of fighter Islam Makhachev has never faced before. Whether the world is ready for it or not. Islam Makhachev didn't rise through the lightweight division. He smothered it. And the terrifying part? He made it look routine. Long before he became champion, Islam already carried the weight of expectation, the kind that breaks most fighters before they ever reach the lights. In Dagestan, talent isn't celebrated, it's demanded. And discipline isn't a choice, it's the price of admission. Islam grew up in the same crucible that forged Khabib. Wrestling on floors, so hard you didn't fall, you thudded. Training in mountain camps, where oxygen is a luxury. Where your training partners aren't teammates. They're measuring sticks for your soul. And here's the part some fans still pretend not to understand. Islam isn't Khabib 2.0. He's something else entirely. A different build, different rhythm, different striking layers, and a different style of pressure. One designed to dismantle timing, not just position. Look at the Poirier fight if you need proof. Islam didn't shoot takedowns to finish them. He shot them to break rhythm, destroy balance, erase timing. Even a failed entry became a reset button. A disruption, a trap. Poirier, one of the best boxers in the division, couldn't keep a rhythm for more than 8 seconds at a time. And that wasn't luck. That was engineering. Now, imagine applying that blueprint to a bigger man, a sharper boxer, a cleaner striker. Yeah, I'll let that thought simmer for a second. And here's something people don't want to hear, but we're saying it anyway. Islam might be the most complete fighter in the UFC today. On both ends of the fight, he slips, he rolls, He counters. He pivots. He strikes with purpose, not panic. Against Poirier, his head movement looked like it belonged to a veteran boxer, not a grappler. You see where this is going, right? Because if Islam's striking is this good at lightweight, here's something the hardcore fans never stop debating. What happens to Islam's cardio when he carries welterweight muscle into deep rounds? It's a real question, and it matters. But before we talk gas tanks and late rounds, you need to understand the war Jack had to survive just to keep his career and his future alive. For every fighter, there's a moment where destiny tests them. For Jack Della Maddalena, that moment came after the biggest win of his life. Fresh off beating Gilbert Burns, a war that pushed him deeper than anyone ever had, Jack should have been riding the highest wave of momentum in his career. Top 5 ranking, hype growing, whispers of title talks just beginning. Instead, everything collapsed. A routine surgery, a small procedure, nothing dramatic. Until it was. The infection didn't just get into the wound. It crawled into the bone. Quiet, aggressive, merciless. Doctors told him what no fighter ever wants to hear. If this doesn't heal, the bone might disintegrate. Imagine that. You're not worried about fighting. You're worried about holding your daughter, about lifting your child without pain, about whether your career, your identity, is evaporating from the inside out. While fans debated rankings, Jack was staring at X-rays every 2 weeks, searching for hope in grayscale images. Was the shadow shrinking? Was the bone healing? Or was his career slipping away quietly, without a punch thrown? These are the parts of the fighter's story that never make headlines. No highlight reels, no roar of the crowd. Just fear, waiting, and a silence that feels heavier than any opponent. But here's the thing about Jack. He doesn't run from darkness. He walks through it. Because when he finally returned, he wasn't the same fighter. He was sharper, more focused, more cold. As if the infection didn't weaken him, it refined him. And if you think that's dramatic, think again. Near career-ending scares do something to the mind. They strip away ego. They strip away hesitation. They leave only purpose. That's the Jack stepping into Madison Square Garden. Not the prospect, not the contender, not the fan favorite. The survivor. And survival changes how a man fights. It changes what he's willing to risk. It changes what he's willing to take. But here's where this story gets dangerous. Because while Jack was battling an infection that threatened to erase his future, Islam Makhachev was sharpening every weapon he had, studying every angle, preparing for a war most fighters would never dare to accept. 2 men, 2 paths, one pushed to the edge of losing everything, the other climbing towards something bigger than his own division. And when their trajectories finally collide, the real question isn't who's stronger or faster or sharper. It's this: what happens when a man who survived his own breaking point steps into a cage with a champion who has never been broken at all? That's the storm waiting on the other side. If you're still here, you're already part of this story. So do me a favor, don't tap out. Tap like, so more fans see this war coming. Now, let's go deeper. Every great matchup has a question buried underneath the hype. A question that decides everything. For Islam Makhachev versus Jack Della Maddalena, it isn't who hits harder or who wrestles better. It's this: what happens when perfect pressure meets perfect precision? Because this isn't striker versus grappler. That's too simple, too basic. This is something deeper. A collision between 2 philosophies built on opposite laws of combat. Islam's style is suffocation in motion. Not chaos, not wild aggression. Engineered pressure. He doesn't rush. He closes space like a steel door. slowly eliminating options until his opponent has nowhere left to go. And Jack doesn't fight in lines. He fights in angles, sharp ones, unexpected ones. He doesn't just punch, he places shots, like a sniper adjusting a scope mid-combat. One man collapses distance, the other manipulates it. One destroys rhythm, the other owns it. One drags you into deep water, the other slices you before you ever get your footing. You can feel the collision already. And here's the part that should make you sit up a little straighter. In pure stance matchups, Jack's a nightmare. Orthodox versus southpaw, Jack fires straight down the center. Right hand, laser guided. Switch stance, he angles the lead hook into your blind spot. Mirror stance, his jab becomes a scalpel. But Islam has an answer most fighters don't. He switches stance mid-shot. He did it against Poirier. He disguised takedown entries behind shifts. He changed direction inside combinations. It's not just innovation, it's problem solving in real time. And then there's the clinch. People think Islam dominates every tie-up position. Not true. Jack is dangerous there. Elbows, body shots, short hooks. If Islam holds the Muay Thai plum too long, Jack punishes it. We saw it against Bilal. We saw the angles. We saw the escapes. We saw him slip under pressure that breaks most fighters. You want a controversial take? Here it is. Jack's anti-grappling is better than people want to admit, and Islam's striking is better than some people want to believe. This fight isn't about strengths. It's about traps, deceptions, tiny technical battles happening inside the chaos. Islam wants linear pressure. Jack wants lateral escape. Islam wants the fence. Jack wants the center. Islam wants your base. Jack wants your timing. It's chess at fist-fighting speed. And neither man has faced a mirror this sharp. But here's the real twist. The part analysts whisper, but rarely say out loud. Someone's A-game will collapse in this fight. Not because they're worse, but because the other man's strengths erase their options. And when the cage door closes, that collapse might happen faster than anyone thinks. But before you start picking sides, you need to understand the stakes. Everything before this was the climb. What comes next is the fall. For one of them, every great fight carries consequences. This one carries aftershocks. Because when Islam Makhachev and Della Maddalena step into Madison Square Garden, they're not fighting for a belt. They're fighting for the direction of two divisions and the meaning of their own careers. For Jack, a win isn't just a title defense. It's a revolution. If he beats Islam, he doesn't just remain champion. He becomes the man who stopped the pound-for-pound king from conquering a second weight class. He becomes the Australian superstar who derailed a Dagestani dynasty. He becomes the first fighter to make Islam look human. And here's the part that'll sting for some fans. If Jack wins, Islam's entire aura changes forever. Not erased, but rewritten. A champion who couldn't carry his dominance upward. A king who met someone younger, sharper, and more dangerous at the wrong moment in history. And then the ripple effect begins. Shavkat, Colby, Burns again, Edwards, Bilal. Suddenly, the welterweight division isn't a landscape. It's a storm, with Jack at the center, and every contender trying to tear the belt away from him. Jack becomes a global force. His gym becomes mythology. Australia becomes the new epicenter of violence. But you know the other side of this coin, and it's just as terrifying. If Islam wins, the conversation ends, period. He becomes one of the greatest UFC fighters of all time. Not in debate, but in fact. A two-division champion who dominated lightweight, then walked into welterweight and dethroned its sniper king. The comparisons to GSP won't just resurface, they'll explode. Because Islam wouldn't just beat Jack, he'd beat a bigger man with cleaner striking, sharper angles, and more power. He'd become the double champ who transitioned upward better than Khabib ever attempted. Yeah, that one will set comments on fire. And the fallout? The whole division panics. Matchups that seemed impossible suddenly become real. Islam versus Shavkat, the chess match from hell. Islam versus Edwards, champion versus champion. Islam versus Usman, wrestling royalty colliding. Islam versus Covington, cardio versus pressure. And here's the crazy part, and you better sit with this for a second. A win for Islam doesn't just change welterweight, it changes lightweight too. Because if he conquers 170, who's left to challenge his throne at 155? Topuria? Gamrot? Arman? Talented, yes, but none carry the shadow Islam does. This isn't just a super fight. It's a crossroads for two men and for the UFC itself. One man rises to immortality. One man gets pushed down the mountain. Both pay a price, in victory or defeat. Because fights like this don't just decide careers, they define eras. And when the lights go down at Madison Square Garden, and the dust settles, and the cameras freeze on the victor, only one truth will matter. Greatness isn't given, it's taken. And on this night, only one of them takes it. History won't remember the talk, only the moment.